Alright, I'm going to tighten up this injector bolt, hold down bolt. And the way I do it, you can just tighten it, but the way I do it, I like to just kind of bump it, and it kind of bumps it in, you know, like this. And it kind of brings it down and gives it a little bit of bumping motion to keep it from, keeps it from binding. Yeah, you can actually see the injector. It's sinking right down in there to the bottom. Right there. And there it goes. That's all the way to the bottom. I'm going to just snug it up like that, and I'll go get a torque wrench. Cut.
Rolling.
Alright, I'm going to put this 12-point socket on there and torque wrench to 60 foot-pounds. Just bring our injector down nice and slow. Finish it off until it goes click. There we go, 60 foot-pounds. That's it. The injector's installed. It's ready to be put to use. I'm going to put a little dab of petroleum jelly on the tip to get underneath the injector arm, like that. Just a little bit of something on there so it's not dry. All right. All we got to do is install the assemblies now, and there's a little trick to that, and I will show you how to do that. Let's go get the assemblies and put them up there.
Which one are we going to start with?
I would start with the valve rockers. Put them on there first, and I'll show a little trick. Be careful, don't drop them.
Yep.
And don't fall.
I want to drop myself.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm rolling.
So we're gonna
make sure you keep the rocker arm shaft facing upwards so the bolts don't fall out when you're setting it in there.
All right. So they're kind of.
Yeah, just set it in there, and then you can kind of flip them around. And get it in place. Just sort of gently. It's not easy because it's heavy.
It's heavy and it's not comfortable from this side.
No, it's not comfortable.
All right.
Now just sort of
Play with
work them. Yeah, work them. So you got that one
up.
flipped.
You got guts.
Yeah.
All right. So this one.
Yeah, it's a little tricky, but you can do it.
You have to work them
Just
out.
gotta work them, yeah.
Like slowly.
Yep.
You just lift it a bit and then.
Yeah, just lift whatever you
basically
need,
you have
just
to-
enough to get it
You
around.
have to mess more, I guess, in my case.
Yeah.
With the engine brake.
Yeah.
No.
You gotta lift it up to get that one. Up.
Don't touch it. It says don't touch it. Don't touch me. Da, 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 da.
There you go.
Don't touch this.
And then the last engine brake over there, you got it flipped around there.
There's 2 engine brakes. Oh, they flip it with.
Yeah, keep that rocker shaft up and down.
Oh my god.
You almost need 3 hands
There
for
you
this.
go. You can get it by yourself. You just gotta take your time,
Yeah, take your time, patience.
wiggle it around, just a little bit at a time. There you go.
Almost.
Almost.
Now this one is messing my job.
Yeah.
There you go, baby.
Now make sure you didn't lose any of your
Crossheads.
or the standoffs for the engine brake studs.
Oops.
And
There
if
you
you
go.
do drop one, put it back. Yeah. Just
Where is
take
it?
your time. Put them back the way they go. That's why I always.
Yeah, and you don't want to play with this at night.
Well, that's also why I take the intake crossheads off, because they always just fall and get on your way. The exhaust ones are, not as bad.
Yeah.
You're less likely to
They're
drop.
more,
or
they're
lose
more
one.
sticky to the.
Yeah, because they have the hole through them and all that.
Okay, this one is. This is good. This is good. This is.
Yeah.
This is good, but we need the crossheads.
Put the crossheads on
Yeah,
there.
we need to put the crossheads.
Yeah, and make sure you put the stem on there first. For the
Put it
engine
in
brake,
the
engine brake
engine?
stem. No, not like that. Put
Oops.
stem first. Yeah, just
Stem
like that.
first?
Yep, just like that. Put the stem.
Goes like this.
Yep. It always goes to the closest one to the passenger side.
Yeah. You look at the
Always.
picture on your phone. If you took a picture of your phone.
That's
this
right.
in the
Yep. So take a
beginning.
picture with your phone before you take them apart.
There you go. Now we got the engine brake crosshead set.
And then exhaust crosshead. Yep. And then now the intakes. You can just.
Yeah, you just lift
Yep.
the rocker, and you put them on nicely. There you go.
All right. Now, I will show you a trick.
Show me the trick.
All right. You see this? Let's just make sure everything is where it should be. Nothing. None of these arms are flipped. Okay.
Yeah, double check.
All right.
There you go.
That sort of made it
Set.
seat a little better. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. But if you'll see, let's get a flashlight. Cut.
Rolling.
All right. There's a trick to putting these injector shafts back in. If you look, I don't know if you can zoom in. If you look right here, you'll see how this injector shaft is way up compared to where it should be.
Yeah.
See that gap?
Yeah.
Okay. It's up. The rocker shaft is actually up. Okay, because it's up against all the springs. If you rotate the engine either to A or B, depending on where the crankshaft position is, every other rotation is,
It's either here or here.
153 or 624, right? So right now it's up, and where are you at on the crankshaft? You're on A, right?
A.
Okay, so rotate it from A to B, and it's either going to be A or B. In other words, if it's on B and it's up, then you need to go to A. If it's A and it's up, you need to go to B. Well, watch what happens when he goes to B. See how it just dropped?
Yeah.
And when he goes all the way to B, it'll actually allow enough relief in that rocker shaft that is dropped on its own. We can install it. So that's the trick. Just make sure that you rotate the engine to either A or B. Now that means this one's down, and if we had this one loose, that one would be up.
Yeah.
So it's either A or B,
Yeah.
and it could switch back and forth depending on every other revolution of the engine. So you just guess it and go to A and try it, and go to B and try it, see which one makes it drop the most.
Now we can.
So now we can start all the bolts, and how I do this, because it's very critical. This shaft it can rotate a little bit. You can get it out of position, and if you get it out of position, you'll cause problems with the engine brake. The engine brake has these little detent positions. You can feel that little detent right there.
Yep.
And if you get this shaft twisted, it'll cause that engine brake to sit in the detent position incorrectly to the head. So we don't want to cause that problem. So what we do is we start all the screws, just a couple of 3 turns in each, all of the screws, to get the shaft a little bit lined up. So let's do that. Let's just start all the screws by hand and just get them all started. And if you want to come around this side, cut.
Rolling.
All right, we got all the bolts started with our fingers, a couple turns in. This flat right here, this flat area, sets the angle for this rocker shaft arm. So we run this bolt down first, and we make sure it's centered and it's flat, nice and flat on here. So let's run this bolt down first, and just snug it up a tiny bit with our ratchet, just a regular ratchet. And we'll ensure, just sort of use these bolts to wiggle the shaft as you're snugging it up. Just sort of get a little pressure. Yeah, now just wiggle it with this as you're coming down on it. Just work it hard, left to right.
Okay.
Like this, wiggle it. There you go. And then snug it a little more, just to make sure we got all the tension out of it. Just like that. You see how we got a little more on it? Now try that again. Okay. Yep. And then bring this down a little more so that we're centered, and that sleeve centers everything. Now go ahead and snug it a little bit, quite a little bit there. Yeah, not real hard. Yeah, there you go. And what we want to look for after we snug that up good, let me get up there. We want to look at these engine brakes to make sure we don't have anything crazy going on. Because if they're too close to the studs, they're going to give us a problem. What we want, there's the detent position. You can feel that detent position. Mm-hmm. You want a minimum from that detent position to the top of the stud, the engine brake stud. You want a minimum of 20 thousandths, 0.020, and that's clearly a lot more than 20 thousandths. How I check it is I just take a dial indicator and I stick the needle here, and I actually watch the dial indicator for 20 thousandths or more. Anywhere between 20 thousandths and 110 thousandths, what Cummins says. But I like to see it about 20, 30, 40 thousandths or so. I don't like to see it all the way up at 110. That one feels good. Just make sure when you're checking this that this arm is loose, the exhaust brake or the exhaust valve arm is loose when you're checking this.
So it doesn't hang in it.
Yeah, because if this is pushing this down, the exhaust arm is actually pushing this down, then you'll get a higher reading. So you can make sure this is loose and then check it. So,
Rolling.
all right, I'm going to tighten this one because that's where our flat is to make our bar sit this way. And we pulled the bar down just snug a little bit, the rest of it. So we can just get a little on it. We haven't torqued it yet. Just sort of snug it up a little bit by hand. And I like to get all the screws started. And then once we get everything down a little ways, you can check the clearance on the engine brake to the top of the studs. And what happens is when these engines age, this clearance here that you see, this little bit of, that's the detent position. You can feel that ball. The clearance between the detent position and the top of that stud for the engine brake, as the engine wears, the valve actually, because compression and everything else in a diesel engine, the valve stem actually wears further and further up in the head over time. And it makes that stem taller and taller and taller as you get more and more miles on the head and on the valves. So the gap becomes less and less and less. And this one's got 600,000 miles on it, so there's not a lot of gap there after we've got it back together. So we're going to do an overhead adjustment. We're going to set it properly. But I like to check it before I do the overhead adjustment just to make sure that it's a little more than 0.02, on this gap. So let's get the dial indicator and check it. And if it's less than 0.02 and we have this centered with this bolt and everything, there's really nothing we can do about it. So if the head gets really worn and the stem's standing way up there where you can't get more than, or you're getting more than 0.02 here, then what you need to do is you need to back off the engine brake a little bit for that valve. You set your 0.276 like you do when your overhead adjustment is. You check it, okay, it's now to the detent position, less than 0.02, because we have a lot of wear in the head and the valve seat. So you just back it off until you get to the 0.02. That's basically what we do. But we make sure first that this rocker shaft is positioned correctly to this stud and it's not twisted one way or the other, because that will throw them all off. So we now know that we're flat correctly and the rocker shaft is down completely. I'm just going to check these because they're a little narrow, because there's a lot of wear in this head and these valve seats are actually standing up pretty tall. And we'll go from there.